Picture this. You're riding in the back seat of a beat-up Honda Civic that smells like fast food and those cheap pine tree air fresheners hanging from the rearview mirror. The driver's wearing a wrinkled t-shirt with visible sweat stains, constantly apologizing for his car's condition while navigating through heavy traffic to get you to the airport on time. His phone keeps buzzing relentlessly with ride requests, and he mentions he's been driving for 12 grueling hours straight just to pay his monthly bills and put food on the table. You hand him a $5 tip, say thanks, and think absolutely nothing more about this hard-working guy who's clearly just trying to survive in the gig economy. But what if I told you that this exact same driver, who just spent the entire ride apologizing for his car's torn seats and broken air conditioning, actually owns a massive 24-unit apartment complex worth over $3.2 million? What if I revealed that those constant phone notifications weren't just desperate ride requests from passengers, but actually text messages from his property management company reporting rent payments, maintenance updates, and tenant communications? What if that beaten-up Honda Civic with its rattling engine is nothing more than his carefully crafted cover story, and he's been systematically building a sophisticated real estate empire while everyone around him assumes he's barely scraping by paycheck to paycheck? This story will completely destroy everything you think you know about wealth, success, and the dangerous assumptions we make about people based on their appearance, their job, or their circumstances. Ryan Thompson, a seasoned property investment expert who's personally uncovered some of the most incredible hidden wealth stories across America, recently experienced an ordinary Uber ride that turned into one of the most mind-blowing discoveries of disguised wealth he's ever encountered in his entire career. The driver initially seemed exactly like every other Uber driver struggling to make ends meet in today's challenging gig economy. But Ryan's trained investigative eye started noticing something strange and completely out of place. Despite driving a deteriorating vehicle and wearing obviously old, worn-out clothes, this particular guy carried himself with an unusual confidence and spoke with a knowledge that didn't match his apparent financial situation. Something fundamental didn't add up about this picture. Ryan's professionally trained instincts for spotting hidden opportunities and detecting when things aren't quite what they seem began picking up on subtle but unmistakable clues that 99% of passengers would completely miss or dismiss as meaningless coincidences. When Ryan casually mentioned during conversation that he works in real estate investment, the driver's entire demeanor, body language, and tone of voice shifted dramatically in ways that revealed far more than he probably intended. What happened next during that seemingly routine airport ride defied every single assumption about wealth, financial success, and the misleading stories we constantly tell ourselves about ordinary people and their hidden capabilities. This incredible discovery will prove beyond any doubt that the most extraordinary wealth and the most impressive financial success stories often hide behind the most ordinary, unremarkable appearances that we encounter every single day. Curious? Stay right here because what Ryan discovers next will completely shatter your assumptions about wealth. Meet Carlos Martinez, a 42-year-old Uber driver who's been navigating the busy streets of Phoenix, Arizona for the past 3 years, working 12 to 14-hour shifts almost every single day of the week. When you first encounter Carlos, absolutely everything about his appearance, his vehicle, and his circumstances screams financial struggle and economic hardship. His 2008 Honda Civic has definitely seen much better days, featuring a severely cracked dashboard held together with duct tape, completely worn-out seat covers that expose the foam underneath, and a persistent mechanical rattle coming from somewhere under the hood that strongly suggests expensive engine repairs he obviously can't afford to address. Carlos consistently wears the same rotation of 3 faded polo shirts that have clearly been washed hundreds of times, and he drives with all the windows rolled down even during Phoenix's brutal summer heat to save money on air conditioning and gas costs. He keeps a small cooler filled with ice water in his trunk and apologizes to passengers about the lack of climate control, explaining that every dollar he saves on gas and maintenance goes directly towards supporting his family and paying basic living expenses. On this particular Tuesday morning, Carlos picks up Ryan Thompson from a downtown Phoenix real estate investment conference and like 99% of Uber passengers, Ryan initially pays very little attention to his driver. Beyond basic politeness and small talk, Carlos makes the typical conversational comments about Phoenix's oppressive heat wave and casually mentions that he's already been driving since 4:30 in the morning to catch the early airport rush and maximize his earnings for the day. Everything about this interaction seems completely normal until Ryan starts noticing something genuinely peculiar about Carlos's knowledge. Despite his obviously humble appearance and seemingly desperate financial circumstances, Carlos speaks with remarkably detailed and sophisticated knowledge about different Phoenix neighborhoods, property values, and real estate market trends. When they pass through a newly developed residential area near Scottsdale, Carlos spontaneously mentions highly specific details about average rental rates per square foot, occupancy percentages, and property appreciation trends that most professional drivers wouldn't possibly know or care about. He correctly identifies which apartment complexes in the area are currently struggling with significant vacancy issues and which premium properties maintain extensive waiting lists. Ryan's professional curiosity and investigative instincts immediately start kicking into high gear. This level of real estate market knowledge from an Uber driver seems completely unusual and potentially significant. Ryan decides to test Carlos's knowledge further by casually mentioning that he personally invests in rental properties throughout the Phoenix metropolitan area, fully expecting the typical response about how incredibly lucky he must be to afford real estate investments in today's expensive market. Instead of the expected reaction, Carlos's entire demeanor immediately lights up with genuine enthusiasm and professional interest, and he starts asking incredibly sophisticated questions about capitalization rates, cash flow analysis methodologies, property management strategies, tenant screening processes, and market timing considerations. This definitely isn't the conversation Ryan expected to have with his Uber driver, and it's becoming increasingly clear that Carlos possesses knowledge that goes far beyond casual interest. The ride takes a completely unexpected and intriguing turn when Carlos's phone buzzes with what appears to be a routine text message. He glances at the notification and mutters something under his breath about a tenant calling the emergency maintenance line about a leaky faucet situation in Unit 12 that needs immediate attention. Ryan's professionally trained ears immediately perk up with intense interest. Did this apparently struggling Uber driver just casually mention having a tenant and referring to a specific unit number? When Ryan asks directly about the message, Carlos quickly deflects the question and provides a vague explanation about helping his older brother with some basic rental property management tasks and tenant communication responsibilities. But Ryan's investigative instincts are now completely activated and focused like a laser beam on Carlos's story. He starts paying much closer attention to Carlos's phone conversations during red lights and traffic stops. As they finally approach the airport terminal, Ryan makes a spontaneous decision that will ultimately lead to one of the most shocking discoveries of his entire career. Instead of simply getting out of the car and forgetting about this ride, Ryan asks Carlos for his personal contact information, claiming that he might have some property management questions in the future. Carlos hesitates for several moments, with a strange, knowing smile before providing his phone number. Mind blown already? Hit that subscribe button immediately because Ryan's discoveries only get more incredible from here. 2 weeks after their initial encounter, Ryan calls Carlos with a carefully planned proposition. He explains that he's always searching for reliable, knowledgeable people to help with property inspections, maintenance coordination, and tenant communication responsibilities. Would Carlos be interested in some supplemental side work that could provide additional income beyond his Uber driving? Carlos agrees to meet at a quiet coffee shop in central Phoenix to discuss this potential opportunity in detail. When they finally sit down face to face, Ryan starts asking increasingly detailed and probing questions about Carlos's background and experience with rental properties. The answers he receives begin painting a completely different picture that absolutely doesn't match the struggling Uber driver narrative that Carlos has been carefully maintaining. Carlos demonstrates remarkably deep knowledge of tenant screening processes, comprehensive understanding of complex maintenance issues and speaks about property management strategies with the confidence and expertise of someone who's been successfully doing it for many years. Ryan decides to take a calculated risk and directly confronts Carlos about his true real estate background and experience. What Carlos reveals next will completely revolutionize Ryan's understanding of hidden wealth and fundamentally challenge every assumption about judging people by their appearances, circumstances, and obvious financial situations. Carlos takes a deep breath, looks around the coffee shop to ensure privacy, and begins sharing a story that will completely flip Ryan's understanding of wealth disguised as poverty. Carlos explains that he does indeed own rental properties, but not just one or two small units like Ryan initially suspected based on their conversations. Carlos actually owns and operates an entire apartment complex worth several $1 million. The incredible story begins 5 years ago when Carlos was working as a maintenance supervisor for a large property management company in Phoenix. He wasn't making substantial money in that position, but he was systematically learning absolutely everything about apartment operations, tenant management, property maintenance, and most importantly, he was developing valuable relationships with apartment complex owners who were struggling with their real estate investments and looking for solutions. Through his daily work experiences, Carlos discovered that many small apartment complex owners quickly become completely overwhelmed by the constant daily management responsibilities, ongoing maintenance issues, and tenant relations challenges. These investors originally bought their properties thinking that rental income would be completely passive and require minimal involvement, but they rapidly learned that tenant issues, maintenance problems, vacancy management, and regulatory compliance required constant attention and expertise they didn't possess. Many of these overwhelmed owners were actively looking for exit strategies, willing to consider creative arrangements that would solve their immediate problems while providing them with some ongoing financial benefits. Carlos recognized this as a massive opportunity that most people completely overlooked because they were focused on traditional purchasing methods that required substantial capital and perfect credit scores. Using fundamental principles he learned from extensively studying Robert Kiyosaki's teachings about leveraging other people's money, finding motivated sellers, and creating win-win situations, Carlos systematically identified a 24-unit apartment complex whose owner was absolutely desperate to sell. The owner had inherited this property from his deceased father, but lived in another state and couldn't effectively manage it from a distance. The complex was operating at only 60% occupancy due to poor management practices and significant deferred maintenance issues. Here's where Carlos's strategy became absolutely brilliant and demonstrated sophisticated understanding of creative real estate financing. Instead of trying to secure traditional bank financing that his modest maintenance supervisor income couldn't possibly support, he proposed an innovative seller financing arrangement that solved the owner's immediate problems while creating a pathway to ownership for Carlos. Carlos offered to immediately take over all of the property's existing mortgage payments, handle all daily management responsibilities, coordinate all maintenance and repairs, and gradually improve the property's performance in exchange for a structured ownership transfer arrangement over 5 years. This creative deal structure meant the seller would receive consistent monthly payments without any management headaches, while Carlos would build equity and eventually own the entire property. The desperate owner immediately agreed to this arrangement because it completely solved his problem while providing him with predictable monthly cash flow. Carlos moved into one of the vacant units and began systematically implementing everything he'd learned about professional property management during his years working for the management company. He personally fixed all the deferred maintenance issues using his extensive technical skills, implemented proper tenant screening processes to ensure quality residents, upgraded the property's appearance and amenities, and gradually filled all the empty units with reliable tenants paying market-rate rents. Within 18 months, Carlos had completely transformed the struggling property into a fully occupied, beautifully maintained apartment complex, generating substantial monthly cash flow that exceeded all expectations. But here's the truly incredible part that demonstrates Carlos's genius-level strategic thinking. Carlos continued driving for Uber throughout this entire process, using it as both supplemental income and the absolutely perfect cover for his real estate activities. Ryan can barely believe what he's hearing as the full scope of Carlos's operation becomes clear. Carlos explains that driving Uber serves multiple strategic purposes in his wealth-building plan that most people would never consider. First, it provides immediate daily cash flow that supplements his apartment income and helps fund property improvements without requiring loans or credit. Second, it allows him to systematically scout different neighborhoods throughout Phoenix and identify additional real estate opportunities that he encounters during his driving routes. Third, and most importantly from a psychological perspective, maintaining his Uber driver persona allows him to operate in complete anonymity while building his real estate empire without attracting unwanted attention from family, friends, or potential competitors who might interfere with his plans. Carlos reveals that his beaten-up Honda Civic and modest clothing choices are completely intentional and strategic decisions. He learned early in his real estate journey that appearing wealthy or successful attracts dangerous, unwanted attention from family members seeking loans, friends expecting favors and financial assistance, and potential tenants who assume they can negotiate lower rents or receive special treatment. By maintaining his humble Uber driver persona, Carlos operates in complete anonymity and freedom, making purely logical business decisions without emotional or social pressures that destroy most people's wealth-building efforts. The apartment complex now generates over $8,000 monthly in net cash flow after all expenses, mortgage, payments, property taxes, insurance, and reserves for maintenance and vacancies. Carlos has systematically used this substantial cash flow to purchase 2 additional smaller rental properties using similar creative financing strategies, and he's currently negotiating the acquisition of another apartment building. Reality completely shattered? Demolish that like button and stay locked in because the most incredible part is still coming. Ryan asks to see concrete proof of these extraordinary claims, still struggling to reconcile the humble Uber driver persona with the sophisticated real estate investor Carlos claims to be. Carlos pulls out his phone and begins showing Ryan undeniable evidence that completely validates every detail of his incredible story. Banking statements reveal monthly deposits exceeding $8,000 from rental income. Property management software screenshots display 24 tenant profiles, rent roll summaries, and maintenance tracking systems. Photos on his phone show beautifully maintained apartment buildings, professional landscaping, and updated unit interiors that clearly demonstrate his commitment to excellence. The evidence is absolutely undeniable and overwhelming, but the most shocking revelation is yet to come, and it will completely redefine everything Ryan thought he knew about hidden wealth strategies and stealth empire building. Carlos explains that he's been systematically building relationships with other motivated apartment owners throughout the Phoenix metropolitan area, using his extensive knowledge and proven track record to identify additional acquisition opportunities. Through his network of property management contacts, contractor relationships, and real estate professionals, he's identified at least 6 more properties whose owners are currently struggling with management challenges and would be extremely receptive to similar seller financing arrangements that solve their problems while expanding Carlos's portfolio. His detailed 5-year plan involves controlling over 100 rental units across Phoenix while maintaining his Uber driver cover indefinitely. He estimates this expanded portfolio will generate enough passive income to support a comfortable, upper-middle-class lifestyle, without anyone in his personal life knowing the true source of his wealth. Carlos has essentially created and perfected the ultimate stealth wealth-building system that operates completely under the radar of family, friends, and society. The psychological aspects of maintaining this carefully crafted double life have taught Carlos invaluable lessons about money, success, and human nature that most wealthy people never learn. He's systematically observed how people treat him differently when they assume he's financially struggling versus when they suspect he might have money. These insights have shaped his understanding of authentic relationships and allowed him to build genuine connections based on character rather than financial status. Carlos reveals that hiding his wealth has also taught him crucial lessons about disciplined spending, logical investment decisions, and avoiding the lifestyle inflation that destroys most people's financial progress. While wealthy people often feel pressure to maintain expensive appearances and demonstrate their success through material possessions, Carlos's modest persona allows him to make purely rational business decisions without emotional or social influences. Ryan realizes this discovery represents something much larger and more significant than one individual's remarkable success story. Carlos has scientifically proven that extraordinary wealth can be systematically built using readily available resources, creative thinking strategies, and the discipline to maintain long-term focus while everyone else chases quick profits and status symbols that ultimately prevent wealth accumulation. The verification process confirms every single detail of Carlos's claims through multiple independent sources. Property records obtained from Maricopa County show his legal ownership of the apartment complex and additional rental properties. Bank statements prove the consistent cash flow generation and document the systematic reinvestment of profits into additional acquisitions. Tenant testimonials validate his reputation as an exceptional landlord who maintains his properties to the highest standards while treating residents with respect and professionalism. This isn't a theoretical success story, motivational fantasy, or exaggerated tale designed for entertainment purposes. This represents documented, verifiable proof that hidden wealth opportunities exist everywhere around us for those willing to look beyond surface appearances and challenge their assumptions about how wealth is created and maintained. When Ryan asks why Carlos chose to share this confidential information with him, the answer reveals the most important lesson of this entire incredible story. Carlos explains that most people are so completely focused on judging others by their appearances, possessions, and obvious circumstances that they consistently miss extraordinary opportunities hiding in plain sight. True wealth builders understand that the biggest and most profitable opportunities often come disguised as ordinary situations that everyone else automatically overlooks or dismisses as uninteresting. Carlos's story proves that success isn't about having perfect credentials, substantial starting capital, or impressive connections. It's about developing the knowledge, skills, and psychological understanding necessary to recognize opportunities that others miss, then having the courage and discipline to act on those opportunities while maintaining the long-term perspective required for sustainable wealth building. But the most eye-opening, reality-changing lesson that will transform how you see wealth forever is what I'm about to share. The most powerful lesson from Carlos's incredible story isn't about real estate strategies, creative financing techniques, or property management excellence. It's about completely revolutionizing how you evaluate wealth opportunities and the people around you every single day. Carlos proved beyond any doubt that the most extraordinary success stories often hide behind the most ordinary appearances, and that snap judgments based on clothing, vehicles, or job titles prevent us from recognizing incredible opportunities that surround us constantly. Next week, Ryan's investigation takes him into an even more shocking discovery when he meets Margaret, an elderly woman who rides the city bus every day to her job at a local diner, earning minimum wage and living in a modest apartment. What Ryan uncovers about Margaret's secret real estate empire will leave you absolutely speechless and prove that age, appearance, and circumstances mean absolutely nothing when it comes to building extraordinary wealth through creative real estate. Strategies and disciplined execution. If Carlos's hidden apartment empire story completely amazed you and changed how you think about judging people, make sure you're subscribed to this channel right now, because we're just getting started with these incredible wealth discovery investigations. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss these mind-blowing revelations about ordinary people building extraordinary wealth using strategies that anyone can learn and implement. Smash that like button if this story completely transformed how you think about judging people by their appearances and proved that incredible opportunities are hiding everywhere. Share this video with anyone who needs to understand that extraordinary wealth opportunities exist in the most unexpected places and situations. Leave a comment telling us about the most surprising person you've ever met and what they taught you about hidden success wealth building, or challenging assumptions, your story might inspire our next investigation into ordinary people accomplishing impossible things through real estate investing and creative financing strategies. Support this channel by watching our complete playlist of hidden wealth discoveries, where we systematically reveal the shocking truth about ordinary people building extraordinary real estate empires using creative strategies, seller financing, and stealth wealth principles that anyone can learn and implement, regardless of their starting point or current financial situation. These detailed investigations take considerable time, resources, and careful verification to complete properly. But they're worth every effort because they prove that incredible opportunities surround us every day. We just need to open our eyes, challenge our assumptions, and look beyond surface appearances to discover the wealth-building secrets hiding in plain sight throughout our communities. Remember, million-dollar real estate opportunities surround you every day. Open your eyes,